work for a company called Corporate Project Solutions. So we're a Microsoft Gold partner in various competencies, one of which is projects and programs for Microsoft, as well as the SharePoint and CRM, etc. I've been working at CPS for probably 12 or 13 years now, so quite a long time. I've actually got a split role at CPS. I do a lot of project consulting around Microsoft Project, Project Online, and obviously the new project for the web, and supporting technology, SharePoint, Dynamics, CDS, etc. I'm a Microsoft Project MVP, and I've been an MVP now for, I think, 8 years, possibly, something like that. One of only 2 project MVPs in the UK. So I've got my contact details up there. So I regularly blog at my pwmather.wordpress.com blog. My Twitter handle's on there as well. And also, if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out to me after, there's my work email address. So that's a bit about myself. So yeah, hopefully we can proceed.
Definitely, Paul. No, that's really great to hear. Wow, 8 years MVP. You know, that's really spectacular. So well done for keeping up so much important contributions. That's really impressive.
Yeah,
so
thank
yes,
you.
please feel free to proceed, Paul. That'd be great. Thank you.
So yeah, in terms of like the community contributions, it's a big passion of mine. I really do enjoy helping people out, whether it's on the project forums or through blogging or through events like this. So thank you. Right, so today's session, what I want to cover is an introduction to the new Microsoft project. Now, I've been working with Project Online for many years. Project Online itself is still an application. It's still an application you can sign up for today, and it has many project management features in there. It's quite advanced, as many of you will know, but it's also quite complicated to set up. For those customers just wanting to sort of step up from like Planner, where you're familiar with those boards, but you need a bit more project management capability. You need to have relationships between tasks, etc., and you want a Gantt view. So this is where Project for the Web, you step up to Project for the Web. So it doesn't have the full capability of the Project Online application currently. It is an early product. It was only released end of last year. But the beauty about Project for the Web is it is simple to use. You can go straight into the canvas and you can be creating projects straight away. And it's very intuitive as well. So the various features in Microsoft Project for the Web are simple to use. All of the data is stored in the Common Data Service. So within the CDS, there's various entities that Project for the Web uses that we'll have a look at later on in the presentation. And because of that, it's easy to extend with the Power Platform. So whereas before with Project Online, yes, you can extend it, no problem. There's the whole SharePoint app model or all of the APIs of Project Online, but typically that was coding or compiling code, etc. So you had to know how to write code to extend Project Online. Whereas with Project for the Web, with the Power Apps and Flow, you can easily extend the Microsoft Project for the Web application. Some of the key differences between Project for the Web and Project Online, some of the enhancements, some of the improvements that the project product group have made when they built this application, things like auto save and no publishing required. So those of you that are familiar with Project Online, you'd have to save the project, you'd have to publish it. So you might have saved all your data and then run your report at the end of the week, but realize that the data is not there, and that's typically because you haven't published the project. All that goes away with Project for the Web. It's auto save and no publishing required. So that data is live as soon as you enter new tasks, update tasks, etc. There's also no check-in, check-out. So that feature quite often catches people out with Project Online. So to edit a project in Project Online, you have to check the project out. And then when you're finished, check the project back in. Well, that is no longer required in Project for the Web. There is no concept of check-in, check-out. And because of that, that also enables co-authoring. So multiple people can actually edit the project at the same time in various different locations, whether it's from the Office project UI that we can see in the screenshot there, or whether it's in the model-driven UI. So you can edit the data anywhere. The security is a lot simpler than Project Online. Project Online security is obviously very flexible, but with that, it's quite complex to configure. With the Project for the Web security, it's all based on Office 365 groups. So to enable access to one of your projects, as long as that person's got access to that Office 365 group, that will grant them access into your project as well, which we will look at. And the UI, it's a very engaging UI. If you compare Project for the Web compared to Project Online, you can see it's very visual, and it's all fully responsive as well for various devices. So as mentioned, the Project for the Web is actually built on top of the Power Platform. So with that, it's very simple to build Power BI reports, Power Apps, or Power Automate flows to automate some of those business processes. All of that data is in the CDS, and because it's in the CDS, things like AI Builder and other connections to other tools is very easy. So quick overview of Project for the Web. So there's two entry points into Project for the Web, which we will look at. So we've got the Project Office UI, which is the main interface to Project for the Web. But you've also got a default model-driven app based on the unified interface. So we can take a look at that as well. As mentioned, the data is all managed in the CDS, all managed via Project. And we've also got various entities that project uses, which are listed here. So we've got the projects entity, which obviously stores all the sort of project level information. We've got the project task entity, where all of your tasks associated to that project are stored. And then we've got various other entities storing all of the project data. So Project for the Web and Project Online, I put this slide in there because there are many organizations that are using Project Online today and are considering moving across to Project for the Web. Now, there isn't any sort of migration approach to take your data from Project Online into Project for the Web. They are separate products. But what you can do is build reports that bridge the data together. And there's example report packs from Microsoft as well that do that. And also I've published various report packs myself that do the same thing. We've also got the project roadmap application as well, which I'll show you in the demo. So that enables you to bring in various bits of data from either Project Online projects, Project for the Web projects, or even Azure boards. So you can visualize some of that high level project information in one canvas. And then Power BI, as I mentioned. The Project Professional desktop client, I've included that on there because it's key that actually only connects to Project Online. So there is no capability today to open up a Project for the Web project in the Project desktop client. So that is only for Project Online or indeed standalone. So with that, I'm just going to drop into a demo. So this is pretty demo heavy rather than slides. I don't want to bore everyone on a Saturday with too many slides. So let's just drop into Project. So what we've got here, we're at project.microsoft.com. Okay, so that is the default Office entry point or Office UI entry point into Project. And this is what's known as Project Home. So whereas previously with Project Online, you'll use things like the Project Center to see a list of your projects, well, that's moved away more towards Project Home. So this shows you all of your recent projects that you've accessed, and we can actually see here. So we've got different types. So we've got Project, which is Project for the Web. But as you can see there, I've got an example PWA project that I've accessed. And clicking these will actually open up those projects in the various applications. So we can see here that would actually open up into PWA, the Project Web Access. And these would actually open up into modern projects because they're modern projects. So if we just have a look at creating a new project. So we're straight into the canvas here. And the first thing we need to do is give it a name. So I'm just going to give this 365 Saturday demo. Oh, if I could spell Saturday. Okay, so that's our project. Then we can set the manager, the project manager. It defaults to the current user, which I'm logged in as a mod administrator. Set the start date, etc. And then we're straight into the canvas to be able to start adding tasks. So here we can just go summary task and task 1, task 2, task, and then we give a milestone. Okay, then we can select all of these, and we're just going to indent these to make some hierarchies within our schedule. Okay, and then what we've got, the default columns are displayed here. We've got assigned to duration, but we can easily add new columns into this grid view. So we click on add column, and I'm just going to add in some examples. So let's go with start date. Let's go with finish. I'm going to add some of these others as well. Okay, and then the first thing what we're going to do is just start adding some durations. So I'm going to say this is 2 days. It defaults to days, but if we want to add a different unit, we can go say 4 hours, and we can start typing 4, and you can see that it actually auto completes, and we've got a 4-hour task there. And let's say that this one is actually 2 weeks. So we've got 2 weeks there, and this one I'm going to say 0 because it's a milestone, so there's 0 duration there. You see, you get nice icons and visuals to show you when tasks are today, or whether it's coming up or late, etc. So there's nice enhancements there to the interface. So what we can also do, we've got a board view as well. So here we've got various different views within this board view. So we've got by bucket, which are on now as default, and we can add custom buckets in here. So bucket 2, and we can drag these in, as we can see. Nice and simple. So that's similar to the planner capability that we've got today with Planner. We can also view by progress. So we can see that none of these are actually started, but if they're in progress or completed, they'd be in the various buckets. Or we can see based on finish date, so when things are about to happen. What we've also got is the timeline view. Now, this is one of my favorite views within Project for the Web because it enables you to actually interact with the tasks. So let's create some relationships between these tasks. So we can see we've got this sort of drag handle here, and I can pick up the end of that task and link it to that one. And let's link task 2 to task, and then let's grab our milestone and put that at the end. So we can see that it is interactive, and actually I don't really want that to be a 2-week task. Let's just reduce the duration. So we can see that everything, that one is fixed. So we can then play around with the tasks as we like on the canvas. So going back to the grid view here, we can see that then that's added the dependents and depends on information there. We've also got the task panel. So we can see various bits of data here. Let's just say the percent complete is 50. So we can update it from there. But we can also actually add in the percent complete column here. And we can just go, let's say this is 100% complete. So we can complete those. At the moment, I haven't got any resources into my project. Now, as mentioned, all of the security is based around the Office 365 groups. And at the moment, we're not linked to a group. But as soon as I want to add an individual to a task, I'm just going to put this back to 0. So we click in here. And whereas before with Project Online, you'd have to add the resources into the resource pool, you'd have to then build a team for the project, and then you could finally assign a resource to a task. Well, with Project for the Web, we don't have to do that. We can come straight into here. Straight away, I'm the current user, so I can add myself to a task if I want to. And if I want to add another user, let's just add Adele in here. And now at this point, this is where it will prompt me to connect this project to an Office 365 group because I've added a user to a task. And I'm just going to go with the default, but we can associate with a different group if we want to, but let's just go to create and assign. So now this project is associated with an Office 365 group in my tenant. I can then also add other resources. So when I add other resources in here, let's add Alex. So at this point, it will prompt me or warn me that I'm going to add a new member to the project, and that's also giving them access to the group and everything that that group has access to. So I'm going to click add, assign and add. So now Alex is in my project as well. So that's a very quick intro to the Project for the Web canvas. One other new feature that's recently been released is the ability to copy the projects. So if I click on here and click on the ellipsis here, so that's where you also delete the project if you needed to delete projects, but we've got this copy project option. So on here, if I click copy project, what this will do, this will take a copy of this and it will just append copy to the end, but it will be straight into a new project. So if I click copy project, the process will be running in the background, so using the project calculation service, because the project calculation service also sits between updating the data in this interface and actually the data being written to that task entity in the CDS. So that's why it takes a while for that process to copy those in. But as we can see, this created a new project for us. It's copied the buckets over. It hasn't copied across any of the assignment information as you would expect, and it's not linked to a group. So it's a new project with just your task and bucket information. So let's go back to project home. So then what I want to show you is the project roadmap feature. So we've already got a roadmap here created, but on the drop-down menu, you can see I can create a new roadmap. But I won't create a new one. I'll just go into one that I created earlier. So if we have a look at this, so this enables you to visualize certain projects or tasks and key dates from various projects. So we've got some examples here. I've got a D365 project, I've got a network upgrade and Exchange Online. And these are showing various tasks from those projects. So if I click on this project, I can see that actually that's a project for the web project. So I can click on that and that will open up that project straight away. If I click on network upgrade, we can see this one is actually a project online project. And again, that will open up into PWA. So let's add our new demo project onto here. So all we do is add new row. We're going to give the row a name. I'm going to call it 365 demo. Give it an owner. I'm going to say that Alex owns this row. And then we connect to a project. So as mentioned, we can, for Azure, for project roadmap, we can either connect to project online projects or project for the web projects, or indeed Azure boards. So for this example, I'm just going to add that new project on there. So straight away, I can see the list of the recent projects that I've accessed. That matches what you see on the project home. So let's add, I'm not going to add the copy one, let's add the actual one. And then this will go and connect. And roadmap uses Power Automate behind the scenes to actually keep the data in sync, because all of this roadmap data is also stored in entities in the CDS. And then there's flows that run on a schedule behind the scenes to keep the data in sync from the source data, whether it's project online, Azure boards, or project for the web, and updates that data in the CDS entities so that your roadmap has all of the up-to-date data. So here we're just going to connect to that, and that will go off and create a new flow in my Power Automate. So for I then select the tasks or the items that I want to see on this roadmap, and for the benefit of the demo, I'm just going to select all of them and click add. Okay, so that has added those tasks that we've seen that I created in the project for the web. And then we can set various different statuses. So you can see these are color coded. You can build custom flows to maybe synchronize that status, maybe via a project level task level custom field in Project Online, for example, which I've blogged about previously. But for the moment, you set this manually. And let's say that this one is on track. I'm going to say that this one is high risk in no particular reason, but just showing that these can all be set separately. So that's the roadmap feature. So here we can maybe build roadmaps that are delivering a particular product. For example, we might have a project in Azure boards doing some of the development side of things. We might have a marketing project for the new product in project for the web, and we might have part of the project running in Project Online. So this way we can get an overview of all of the components that are built releasing that new product. So that's the roadmap feature. So the other thing that I want to demo that's out of the box as well is the default model-driven app that you get as part of Project for the Web. So with that, I'm just going to drop into a different instance. So here we can see that actually I'm straight into the project app, and we can see that I'm on the tasks. Let's just go here actually. So here we're in the standard model-driven UI, and I'm just going to click on my example project. So we see that it's very basic, the example model app from project, and then we've got this tasks tab. Okay, so this is an iframe that's running the same capability. So when we're looking at that project UI, the Office UI, we're in the full page experience. Here we've got the same capability, but within our model-driven app. So I can just as easily add new tasks in. So I'm going to say task 4. And I can still go to my timeline and open tasks, etc. So I can do all of that. I can scroll to the task. I can do all sorts of things if I want to. So here we can scroll to the task. I can then do the relationships. I can drag things out. So exactly the same capability, but within the model-driven UI. Then we've also got the other other entities that are surfaced in this default app. So we can see our resources that we've got available. We can see accounts, contacts, etc. Now, Project for the Web gets deployed to the environment via solutions. So I've already just preloaded this. I'm in the solutions area, and it's a managed solution. I've just filtered it to project. So we can see that there's three specific solutions at the moment for the project service. We've also got the portfolio service as well. So that's for the roadmap feature. But if we have a look at this, there's obviously various components for those that you're familiar with how you build custom solutions for the CDS. So we've got lots of files and components in here from web resources, JavaScript files, etc. So we have a look at the entities that get deployed as well. So again, I've just filtered this to the managed entities and filtered to project. So we have a look at just take a quick look at the projects entity. So we've got various fields as you would expect within here. So we've got the owner, the name, etc., and some of the internal fields that you get for the CDS, and then the views and the forms, etc. So I won't spend too much time on that because it's just standard CDS entities. So now what I want to show you is actually demonstrating an enhanced app that I've built as part of a blog series that started many months ago now. So there's several posts. I think I'm up to about post 9 for extending the project for the web app. But I just want to walk through that one and show you that extended app example, just to show you some of the things that we can easily do with no code within the Power Platform. So I'm just going to drop back to my environment here. So what we've got here is this is my custom model-driven app. So I've enhanced or added to the project for the web data. So I've built this concept of programs. So we've got the hierarchy. So the program, we've got various roll-up information. So some of this fields and data rolls up from the projects entity. So some of the costs that I define in the projects that we'll have a look at will actually roll up to this estimated cost on the schedule. I think it's every 24 hours. And then we're doing various calculations and things. But if we drill into IT, for example, so we've got various bits of metadata that we want to set for the IT change program. And here we can see when the roll-up fields was last updated. And then we can also see the related projects. So in this example, we've actually got many projects related to it. So if we have a look at our mobile app project. So in here, this is into the extended projects entity. So we've added some custom fields here in projects. So we've got project type, we've also got the related program, estimated cost justification, etc. Roll up from other entities as well. So we've created an issues and risks entity, and we're showing a count of how many issues or risks that are associated to this particular project. We can see the same tasks, project for the web experience within this app as well. And then we've got stage comments. So we've got a business process flow here. And part of that, we just add comments in for as it processes through the various stages, which I'll walk through with our new 365 demo project shortly. We've got issues, risks, and status updates as well. So one thing on the risks, actually, which I'll show you in action, is we've got the ability to escalate a risk to an issue. So typically, or a lot of the time, a risk might turn into an issue. And then rather than having to rekey all that data into the issue entity, we've actually built in here the ability to escalate. And then a Power App flow will run behind the scenes and do that escalation and create that entity. But I'll show that in action shortly. Then we've also got status updates. So this is just a custom entity to allow the project manager to provide weekly, monthly feedback, just their view on how the project's going. And we've actually got another flow running in the background to do the sentiment analysis, so we can work out how positive the comments are over time. And that just runs automatically in the background, which we'll see as well. We've also got the ability to create status reports. So here on the Word templates, let's just run this, and this will go and export my data into a simple report. So here in Word, so it doesn't look too pretty, but it's just a a quick example to show you how easily, with no code, we can build simple status reports for your project. So we've got some project level information, we've got the project description, we've got all the tasks that are currently in there with start and finish dates. We can see all the issues that are related to this particular project and the risks. And then we've got the status updates as well, including that sentiment analysis score on there. So all very straightforward with no code in the Power Platform. So then what we've also got is various dashboards. So if we have a look at the program, so we've added some charts in here so we can see various visuals all on the model-driven canvas. We can see that. We've also got some dashboards so we can drill in and etc. Let's open up the example dashboard. We can show some filters so we can start filtering this data. If we look at risks as well, we've got an example, some charts on the risks entity. So just add that visual effect straight through in the model-driven UI. And we've also got an example dashboard that we've created here. So we can see various bits of information from our risks, from our programs on this one canvas. So the next thing I want to show you is the Teams integration. So let's just refresh this. So obviously everyone, or typically a lot of organizations are moving more and more to Teams, certainly with the last 3 months that we've had with the COVID. Project for the Web can be easily embedded into Microsoft Teams. As you can see here, we've got this fully interactive project here, so I can update it. You heard the tick there as it's completed, and that's the full capability that we had in either the model-driven UI or the Project for the Web UI. Now, one thing I will point out here is that when you do add the Project for the Web project into a tab, it is just a website tab. But one key thing to always do is add this query string on the end for and Dynamics UI equals true, because then you get a much better embedded experience. So, because if we go back to here and we look at a project, we can see we've got obviously the Office 365 Chrome at the top and the nav, whereas when we're in the team, we don't have that. So it feels more embedded within the Teams client. So we've also added more, so that's out of the box and available. We've also added the roadmap as well, and the same thing. So we can see here if we look at the settings, so it is just a website tab, but there's also that query string that we can add on as well to get the better embedded experience within Microsoft Teams. Also, yes, I'm back. We've also, as part of a blog series that I've given examples on how to use adaptive cards within Teams. So here we've got a flow running in the background that's telling me that all of these test projects I've got on my demo environment are overdue. And this one's pretty late, but just to show off some of that capability with no code, we can easily add these enhancements to your project management toolset. And then finally, just a quick demo of obviously Power BI. So when this loads, so I've just got an example Power BI report embedded in Teams here. So we're seeing some of that information from my custom app. So we've got some program information here. We can drill into the project summaries. We'll see Gantt charts, some various other visuals around some of that project data that we've added in. And we've got an example sort of status report, so we can see various counts and things of tasks for the Exchange Online migration project in this example. And then we've got some resource information there. What I've also got, which I'll show you in another project, I've added the ability to have snapshots. So as we run through this demo project shortly in my model-driven app, I've built in the ability to have snapshots. At various point in times, we can have copies of that data stored, so you can view how your project's changing over time. So different snapshots running on my trial environment. I've got one that's taken a copy of the project as the business process flow changes. So when I use the business process flow on that card to change the stage, I've got a button there to kick off a flow, and then that's what caused this data to enter into my snapshot entities. So you can see it's taken at the planning stage. This one was taken at the planning review stage, whereas these examples here are actually taken just when the project was updated. So I've also got a flow running. As soon as I modify the project, that will also take a copy of the project. So we can start building up a picture of how things change over time. So we can see here how the overall status has been amber, red, green, green, and we can start exploring some of that data. I'm also copying the task history just as an example as well, so we can see that over time how maybe the percent complete has changed between various updates, or if you've got rags and things, any other bits of data that you've added to that task entity, we can copy. So that's the walkthrough of the sort of full end-to-end app and enhanced experience for Project for the Web. Now what I'm going to do is actually just run through the 365 demo project and actually start adding some of this data, and we can see it come to life. So if I go to projects here, we can see both the copies, that copy that we've created, but let's work with this one here. So I can start adding a description, so just test demo. We can link it to a program. Let's link it to our IT change program, project type. Now, if you notice on my process flow here, I've got initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and project closure. If I set that to simple, it's still the same. But if I set this to complex, we'll get an additional stage. So we've built in some logic there that, depending on a certain bit of metadata associated with the project, we've introduced a new stage. So we've got a planning review stage for a complex project. But let's just set that back to simple for now. Estimated cost. So using this estimated cost, we've also built some business rules in around some of these fields that we've got within the project entity. So at the minute, custom cost justification, isn't required. You don't see the red asterisk next to it. So if I just put that in at, say, 28,000, it's still not required. I've got some logic in there that if it's over 30,000, it's required. So if we go 30,001 and click off there, then it's required. So I have to add some data in there. Okay, and then we can set it to a department, etc. And let's set a rag. So I'm going to save that. So that's added the additional data into my project. And we can see the tasks as we did before. But let's add an issue. So let's just add a new issue. I'm going to call this test issue and test. And we're going to set a due date, and we're just going to save and close that. So we've added an issue for this particular project. And we're going to do the same with a risk as well. So a standard sort of risk form that we've got here, I'm going to call this test risk. Great imagination. They really need to come up with some better names. But let's go with test description, and let's set a due date. And we're going to set the probability and the impact, and that will calculate the exposure. And we're going to set it to open. I won't click on the escalation at the moment. I'm just going to close that so we can see that that's calculated our exposure. And then let's say we want to escalate this particular risk, if we're in the real world, into an issue. So I'm just going to change that to a yes. Okay, and then I'm going to save and close. So if we give it a couple of seconds, and then we should see the flow run, and this will show that it has actually been escalated. Let's refresh. So that has now been escalated. So we can see that that's updated and it was escalated today. So now if we look at the issues entity, we can see that we've got the test risk that's come across as well, with our test description and various other bits of data that we've mapped. But we also look at the risk and have a look at the risk item. The flows also set the risk to closed. So just a real simple example of how to build that escalation type process between risks and issues. Now let's add a status update. So if we add a new status update here, I'm going to say week 1 test update, and I'm going to put a positive comment here, and we can see the score, and I'll add another one with a more of a negative comment. This project is great. Okay, let's save and close that. And then if we give it a moment for the flow to kick in behind the scenes, there we go. So it's already run. So the positivity or the sentiment analysis is actually giving us a score of 92%, which is great. Let's add a slightly a negative comment. So week 2 update. Let's just put this project is huge problems. See what score that gives this project. So if we wait for that flow to kick in, 4. So that's given us a positivity score of 4. So we can see that clearly something happened from week 1 to week 2 that has had a negative impact on the project. So this could be your stakeholders, or it could be the project manager, it could be various people. And obviously you could have different roles in here. So you could have a pick list saying, you know, this is the stakeholder, it's the project sponsor, or it's the project, might be even team members, for example. So we can start collecting that information. So let's move this along to the next stage. So let's say project setup. That's great. Let's move it along. And then here we've got we're into this one, and then here we can see that snapshot. So we can actually run the flow to create the snapshot point in time based on when this project is moving through that business process life cycle. So let's give it a comment. Let's say project plan is great. Okay, and I'm also going to run the flow. And that should pop up and ask me to run the flow, and I'm just going to run that, and that will go off and do its thing in the background. And I'll show you the report that comes through for that. Okay, and let's go to the next stage. Okay, so I won't progress that through to the next stage. And then let's have a look at the example report for this particular project. So let's run another report, and then we can see that this one has updated here. So we've got our demo with all of the data that we've just entered on this particular output, including the scores and escalated risks, etc. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so now, okay, so that should have run. Okay, so what I also want to look at here is the snapshot history should have run. So I'm just going to open that in Power BI desktop. Let's just open that across there, and let's refresh the data. So just let that run, and we'll see the history for that 365 project when that decides to complete. And if we have a look at our 365, so we can see here we've got 2 updates because we did a project update when we saved it, so we can see that information was captured there. And then also when we move that project along to the different stage, when we put it at planning, we took a snapshot of the data as well, so we can start capturing that information and building trend reports over time. So all very simple with a Power Automate flow. So let's have a look at some of these example flows that help build this solution. So with flow, there's also some flow examples that have been published by the project group recently as well. So we've got these 2 here. I've just come into the templates and just search for project for the web. But we can see that there's flows for daily project for the web task reminders. So you can set up reminders for your tasks. And you can also send email notifications for assignments. So when a user is assigned to a task, you can get an email sent to them. You can download add these to your flow and customize them, etc. But they are out of the box to have a look at. So then the first flow that we'll take a quick look at is the adaptive cards one. So where we saw within the Microsoft Teams here, let's come back here. So we've got these simple cards that are coming through, and this is just running on a recurrence. So we're setting it to run every week. We're using the CDS connectors and then grabbing all of the projects. And then for each of the projects, we're just looping through and finding when projects are late. So we've got a filter on here when the project isn't 100% complete and the finished date is less than today. And then we just set various time settings, and then we just post the JSON into the adaptive card here using the adaptive card builder. So I didn't write this JSON. I'll just use the adaptive cards interface, and it builds it all for you. And then I just plugged in the various bits of data from the content from the actions that we've got. So here we're passing in the project name and then some outputs from some of those calculations where we're working out the date differences in here. I've got a blog post that covers that as well. Then the other flow, so this is the escalate risk to an issue. So when the risk is updated, we're seeing that when that particular field, so we're only filtering for when the escalate to issue field is actually updated here. And then we're going to check that that field value is yes, because we only want this to run when the field is set to yes. So we want it to escalate, because if somebody sets it to no, you don't want it to run. And then all we do is go and create a new issue in our issues entity, and we pass in some of that data from the risk entity. So take the risk title, it will take the risk description, we set the originating risk, we set various other pick lists, so it's set to open, and then we also set the related project. And we also then update the associated risk. So we go and set the status for that to closed, as we saw that when that flow runs, it closes that risk, and also sets the escalated date to today or now. So that's that example flow. Then we've also got another flow here. So this is for that status update. So we've got the detect sentiment, standard action within Power Automate. So when the record is created, it uses the detect sentiment action, and then from the score that it gets from this action, it just updates the score. So really straightforward with no code, making use of the sentiment analysis feature. Now, the other flows that we used for the snapshots are part of this solution. So we've got the two snapshot examples that we had. So we had the one where the project was updated and we do the snapshot, and then we've also got the stage one. So we have a quick look at when the project's updated and edit that. So standard trigger, when the project is updated, we initialize some variables because we create a new variable for the snapshot GUID. We've got that in there. And then we create the new record in our snapshots entity. So I've got a custom entity called project snapshots. And then we just fill out the rest of the fields with the data, giving it a name. So this is that project update, and it's based on today. And we pass in some of that data from the project entity. And that will create that. And then we do the same for the associated tasks. So we then use the list records and look at the project tasks and filter for the current project. And then we just do the same there and create the new task records in our task snapshot entity, passing in the data from the tasks entity. So we create those copies, really straightforward. And if we have a look at the other example that we do as part of the business process flow, it's a very similar concept, apart from the trigger is not on the project entity, it's on the project stage process flow entity. So when that is updated, we then again set some variables because we need the GUID for the snapshot record. We then pass that JSON from the business stage process flow. We then get the project, the flow information from the business process flow. And then for that, once we know which project it's for, we then go and get the project record. Then we create the project snapshot data. So this is going into our custom entity, and we reference the stage name where the flow was triggered from. And then we do the same for the tasks as well. So very straightforward snapshot process to enable you to build those project trend reports. So let's close that. Now that's coming towards the end of the demo and things that I wanted to show to you. So everything that we've gone through here, I haven't had to write any code at all. So it's all through the Power Platform using Power Apps and Power Automate with the custom entities and things that I've added into that model-driven app. Now I have got, let's just drop back into the slides. So everything that we've covered there, I've just added links onto the screen. Most of them are from blog posts and previous blog posts that I've used to actually build that app. So here we've got, as I say, we're up to part 9 currently, but it started back in December, and the last post I did for that was in April. I've still got a few more to do as I add more features into that example app. But if somebody wanted to follow that through, if you're new to certainly Power Apps and the CDS, it could be useful, but there's plenty of content out there for building model-driven apps within CDS. So also we showed the model-driven side of things, but because it's in the CDS, it's really straightforward to also build the Canvas apps as well if you wanted a more visual type app. So that's very easily possible as well with no code. come to the end of my session. Hopefully you've all enjoyed it, and thank you for having me on 365 Saturday. My contact details are up on the screen now, and please do feel free to reach out to me either via my email address or add me onto LinkedIn. My Twitter handle's there as well as my link to my blog post. So I'm open to any questions. There's a question there. This is the current version of Project for the Web, correct? Yes. So this is Project for the Web. So this is the Project for the Web canvas that we're looking at, and it's not the Project Online. So there are two products from Microsoft for Project Online and Project for the Web, and also the standalone Project Desktop client. What do you know about the enhancements coming for project operations? So I think there's some sessions on the project operations later. I know that there will be some of the Project for the Web capability within project operations, but I would probably look out for another session on the project operations to see the full capability of that. Can you describe the time entry user options? So there isn't sort of timesheet capability or task updates, if that's what you're referring to, for an end user. So say for example, Alex here wanted to come and add some time into that, then we would just come in here and Alex would mark it as 100% complete, for example, but you could, I'm sure there will be sort of timesheet capability coming in the future, but currently today, the end users themselves, when they're assigned to the tasks, would actually have to come into the project and progress the tasks that way. How do you do the adoption with your project managers without integration? So Project for the Web, as I mentioned sort of at the start of the call, it's a new product. It's been out for, it's less than a year old, so it is the sort of the first release. Microsoft are adding new capabilities all the time, but it was filling a gap in the market, certainly within the project space. Obviously, Planner's been around for a long time and has got great adoption. Lots of organisations use Planner, and there were some key asks for Planner to fill the gap between Planner and Project Online. So those organizations didn't necessarily need the full Project Online capability, but they needed a bit more than Planner. And that's where Project for the Web sits currently. It sits between the two and probably meets 80–90% of organizations' requirements. And it's kind of, you outgrow Planner for a certain project and you think, actually, well, I need some of this more complex logic with tasks, links and things like that. And that's where you'd step up to Project for the Web. But over time, there will be more and more features added into Project for the Web, either through the project UI or indeed from either Microsoft or Microsoft partners through the model-driven CDS apps. Regarding, is it possible to decouple effort and duration for a task? That is a feature that has been requested for a long time to break that, and I'm pretty sure that is either live now or will be soon. I'm pretty sure it is actually there. Okay, any more questions? So even if you sort of think of questions after the session, please do feel free to reach out to me. So I'll just put my contact details back up on there. Okay, so licensing, obviously, so project itself is licensed. There's project plan SKUs within Office 365. There's a plan 1, plan 3, and plan 5. For project for the web, you'd need the project plan 1. Project plan 3 and plan 5 give you the project online capability, as well as the project online desktop. But for project for the web, out the box, you would just need the project plan 1 license. But to then build on and enhance the capabilities using the CDS and model-driven apps and Flow, that you will need the Power Apps and Flow licenses, and it will depend on what other licenses you've got. You know, for example, some.
Hello there.